Hello future people, Jason the Bruce here with Getting Tabled, and today I want to begin a series of how to get into some of the games that we are discussing regularly. And today I thought I would start with what for me feels like the obvious one, because it's what brought us into podcasting to begin with, and that would be Dropfleet Commander. Dropfleet Commander was originally introduced from Hawk Wargames. It was launched through a Kickstarter that I was a backer for. They did eventually get purchased by TT Combat. Today I want to have just a brief discussion about what you would need to do if you want to get into this game. So everything today that I'm going to tell you is coming directly from the TT Combat website, with a couple of exceptions that I'll mention later. The first thing I want to start on with, however, is the rules. Now, what you're looking at here is the original rulebook. It is still current, and I'm doing this because whilst it is still important to have this for the actual rules, most of the actual ship details, or the ship statistics rather, have changed since this was released. This was first published many years ago. Dropfleet Commander, all games, has updated their stuff to help it be, more balanced and so on and so forth. If you want to learn the lore, these are the best places to find it. These two books. You can play this without the rules technically, because the base standard rules are actually available on dropfleetcommander.com. As is the updated ship information. Obviously, the other thing that you're going to want are ships. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can buy into this game. The most cost-effective way would be these, the battle fleets. Now, you will notice a little later when I'm looking at the actual starter sets that there is one that's missing here. This is definitely the better value. Obviously they're out of stock at the moment. That's COVID happening, but this is still the best affordable way of buying in. Not to say that you would never want to buy anything else. This is a tabletop game after all. You always want something else, but you could build a good force out of this. You could take it to a tournament and actually be successful. Moving on, you've also got a 2-player starter set. This is a really good value for money starter set. This is how I originally brought in. I brought multiple copies of this to buy in. But if you're going this way, you would be wanting to either have UCM or Scourge, because that's what this comes with. This also comes with your rulebook, which contains your tokens and everything. Starter fleet wise, you can buy them separately. This is the UCM one, which is exactly the same layout as what came with the UCM and the other one. Obviously, starter sets being what they are, the 2-player starter set is better value. It's literally the way that they always are. That's kind of the point. That's how they get you in. And then we have the Scourge, my preferred faction. And we have the Shaltari. Value-wise, these all give you the same value for money. And we have the PHR. General standards for UCM are kind of like your all-rounder. They have the best burn-through lasers in the game, which is kind of like if you have successes, you get to continue rolling. Scourge have this really cool rule that if you're within their scanning range, your shields, your armor drops a little bit. Which is it's not broken, but it's a really nice, fun rule. Sheltari are full of shenanigans. They have shields which make it harder to hit them. They're really good at long-range fire. PHR have this ability to have linked guns, and they can fire both ways at the same time without having to do special things. They can be a harder fleet to learn with because you have to be able to place yourself properly to be very effective with them. But if you can get through that learning curve, PHR are potentially one of the most deadly forces available. They're just probably not the best place to start ease of play wise. For those that have been following the podcast, they will notice that we haven't actually been touching on the resistance for a while. We did touch as to why early on, but as a reminder, the resistance has been built so that you can literally build any ship that you want. Like you essentially have like a base ship and then you add stuff to it to represent whatever it is on the rules. There's no bad choices as far as who you're playing with in this. There's really no bad choices at all. To start with, I would either buy the 2-player starter set, split it with a friend, or one of the regular starter sets. Build that up. If you want to get some advice as to what's really good, or ask in the Dropfleet Commander community, I would highly recommend to join that. It's a very active community, very helpful. You will eventually need to buy at least a second one, but I'd start with that, start with a smaller game and then buy more later. As far as other stuff is concerned, like additional stuff, obviously as I said, you'd probably want to buy a second ship at some point, but there are some additional things that you may want to look at later. Launch assets is something that you can buy, and it's just a model version of the tokens that come in the starter set. Likewise, you can get resin tokens for your ground assets that are gorgeous. You don't need to buy those though. They are definitely something that you would buy because you want them. You don't need them to play. Space stations generally, this game probably has the best space station building kit you can buy. You can literally build anything that you want out of it. This is in addition to that to make them look like the Scourge have taken them over. These are the ground tokens I was referring to earlier, but these are all built from the same kit. If you look very closely, you'll start to notice that there are actually specific parts that tend to repeat themselves. It's kind of designed like a giant Lego kit so that you can build anything that you want. You could build several ships like they've done here. You could build one giant space station, not ship. You can literally build anything you want. It's completely up to you. The dreadnoughts are giant spaceships. Literally, they are huge. Like my Scourge one is like this. The PHR one is about like that. They are massive. If you're familiar with naval history, you'll know where that comes from. The game itself is played on a 4x4 mat. If you buy the 2-player starter set, then that comes with a paper mat that you can put down, which is a smaller size. It's much smaller. But there are some companies that you can go to buy maps if you would like to. I am just using this one as an example because I know that these ones are specifically for the game. Deep Cut Studios have a couple of different mats. I actually have one of these. I have the Snowfields one from memory. There are some other companies out there that are doing them, but this is the one that I knew of off the top of my head. There are some other smaller companies that are doing tokens, alternate ways of doing the ground assets and so forth. The main goal of Dropfleet is not actually to kill everything, it's to get your troops onto the ground, which then becomes Drop Zone Commander in theory. The idea is that you're actually in orbit over the planet, which is why these maps are actually drawn the way they are, because you're actually in orbit over the planet trying to get your stuff down onto the ground. Now obviously as part of that you're probably going to want to take out your enemy's ships so that they can't get theirs down there, but generally speaking it's not the goal of the game. That's Dropfleet Commander. It's actually quite easy to get into, to be honest. Like a lot of games, it's easy to learn, hard to master. Thank you very much guys for watching this video. If you would like to see more in this series and have suggestions of what games you would like us to do an introduction for, please let us know. We already have a couple in mind. If you're new to this channel, please like and subscribe. Share our content if you know other people that would enjoy it. If you would like to connect with us in other ways, all of our contacts are down the bottom. including a link to our Patreon page if you're in a position to support us. And until next time, play more games.